So one of the things that changed within that standard is some of the design criteria. One of the things that the manufacturers at that point had been using was really, we look at fatigue analysis. So it's encompassed that manufacturers today must start using roading use down the road. If it's getting a lot of shaking and stuff, we have to look at that from a design. It was never used before. I have a feeling most manufacturers were using it. Picture here shows some of the safety factors that exist, and this is just one method that Altec uses to design. This is called finite element analysis. We actually load things up in computer screen and simulate it to make sure before we actually put it out within the industry and put it in fact. Another thing that changes control locations. All functions that have to be moved before, say it's an outrigger you're moving and you're moving the boom, this criteria laid that basis behind that. You have to be able to see that. So there's been a fair amount of accidents in the field, either outriggers crushing people, booms getting swung into something, or they can't see it. So really we wanted to add some criteria around that just from a safety standpoint. Unlocking and enabling device. A lot of lower controls for aerial devices today did not have a correct method to use the interlock. And this is a little bit of harmonization with some of the ISO standards that exist. So I'll step back a step. When I talk about that harmonization, there's some European or national standards that exist. So ANSI is pushing to try to merge those standards together. So there's a lot of the things that we pushed through in 2015 are beginning to try to merge some of them standards to try to not only level the playing field within the United States, but actually broaden that out into a little bit bigger scenario. Right now there's a lot more users or manufacturers outside the U.S. trying to get equipment in. So we're trying to get them standards to be a little bit more closely related together to be able to have more options. So this is one of those harmonization criteria, but what it does is before, when you went to lower controls and airlines, you didn't have to have an enabling device. You could actually put it to lower controls and grab either hydraulic control handles or buttons and be able to run those. This criteria changed that method. It allowed that the operator of that piece of equipment had to have some type of enabling or interlock device. It made it a little more difficult, easy for electronic controls devices, but more difficult when you have a hydraulic controlled division. You actually have to now sit and push a control handle. So it was a little just change of the methodology of the way things are controlled today.